All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We are excited to have an incredible crew with us this morning. They will be joining us, turning their video on and sharing a little bit about who they are, where their district is in the e-learning process right now, and a few other things. And we'll be answering questions based on your needs today as well. So I would like to just quickly introduce myself. I'm Amber Hefner. I'm the Executive Director of Illinois Digital Educators Alliance, and very excited to be here with you today. We also have Whitney Miller joining us today. Whitney, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Whitney Miller. I'm the Finance and Membership Manager at IDEA. And Amy, I like your shirt. I have the same one on today. But I don't have my hair done like you do. I live in West Central Illinois, and I'll be monitoring the chat. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Whitney. All right, getting us started then, we'll just go kind of across how I see everyone lined up on my screen. So we will be starting with Miss Amy Lamberti.
Hey everybody, I'm Amy Lamberti and I am a teaching and learning facilitator in Lake Forest District 67. I have been in my district for 17 years. I started out as a 5th grade teacher, then I became an instructional technology coach for 7 years, and then the past 3 years I've been in the teaching and learning department. In terms of how e-learning is going, I feel like we are way ahead in the race because we've been a one-to-one district for close to 13 years now. So I feel like we are really doing well. So I'm excited to help other districts and kind of share some of our success stories today.
Thank you, Amy. All right, Kristen.
Hey everyone, my name is Kristen Stern. I work in Batavia Public Schools. I spent 5 years as an instructional technologist, and then our district shifted that role this year to be instructional coaches. So I was K-12, and then now I'm strictly in an elementary building, which I love. We are a Google district, and we have been one-to-one for 5 years. We do Chromebooks, first grade through 12th grade. And I'm really excited to be here today and talking about some of the great things our teachers and staff are doing.
Great, Kristen. Thank you so much for joining us. John Langley.
Hi everybody, John Langley, the Instructional Technology Coordinator with Pleasant Plains School District. We're a K-12 district. Prior to that, I was an English teacher at the high school for 16 years, and then the past 7 has been as the Instructional Technology Coordinator. We are not one-to-one. We have enough Chromebooks in classrooms at the elementary and middle school to cover, and high school has carts that kind of move around. That's kind of one of my goals, is somehow, some way to get there, but it's an ongoing process. So the remote learning process for us has been just a little bit different. We had to have tear down some Chromebook carts to get Chromebooks out there for kids that didn't have them at home. And of course, the ongoing challenges of if kids don't have internet, trying to figure out an alternative means for them to get it. So that's been kind of an interesting dilemma to take care of, but happy to be here and happy to contribute.
Thanks, John. And Tammy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tammy Reindl. I'm the Technology Integration Specialist for Taylorville School District. I've been the Tech Integration Specialist for 2 years now. Prior to that, I taught 5th grade for 4 years, and then I taught 2nd grade for 20 years. So I've been at all different grade levels. Last year, I traveled K through 8. Being tech integration, we have 2 tech integrations. So this year we kind of split it up a little bit, and I'm kindergarten 1st and 2nd, and then I am junior high 5th through 8th. Our school has been one-to-one 7th grade through 12th grade. We do have carts in every classroom K through 6th grade. So we were fortunate enough when all this came about that I had to go in and we had to wipe down all the Chromebooks, and we actually handed out Chromebooks from 3rd through 6th grade as well. So we have students from 3rd all the way up to 12th grade with Chromebooks at home. And our principal at K through 2 decided she did not want to pass out Chromebooks to the younger ones. She wanted less screen time. So we basically ordered some pre-made backpacks for them with different books and different things. So that's kind of how we're handling it.
Great, Tammy. Thank you for that. So we have a vast array of experience and all levels represented here as well. So thank you for sharing that. The first question that I would just like to ask you is, what do you think is the strongest thing that's happening right now within your district, specifically with e-learning and where we're at? We're almost 3 weeks into it now, give or take, who's taken spring breaks, etc. We've got about 3 weeks at least left. So what would you say in your experience right now is the thing that is going the best, at your grade level or district? Tammy, go ahead.
I think in Taylorville, we had teachers that weren't actually using the Chromebooks, our PE teachers. We had a handful of a bunch of high school teachers. Even 3rd and 4th grade teachers, they had Chromebooks in their classroom, but they weren't using like Google Classroom as much as they should have been and stuff. And so I think one of the important things that we did right away is I provided professional development virtually for a lot of those teachers that hadn't been using it, and they're starting to feel a lot more comfortable. Of course, every Monday I'm working 24/7 with them, guiding them through things, but I think just our teachers even learning how to use some of these different programs and stuff virtually has been a great improvement. So I think when we do go back, it's just going to be something that they realize this is so much easier than printing out papers, and hopefully that's what they'll go to in the long run. So
great. That is definitely a success story. Good one, Tammy. John, how about you?
I think there's kind of 2 things I'm seeing that are really cool. The web conferencing with the kids, I think, is very strong. Getting that image of the teacher up in front of the kids so they can see them, they can talk to the kids, they can relate, is going to put the kids at ease. And I think that's super important. One of the things that we tried to do early was explain to the teachers to do that maybe once a week with your students. Don't try to overwhelm them and do something like that every day, because then it's going to get hectic for the kids, get hectic for the parents. You're going to have burnout. So we tried to get them that mindset to touch base. The other cool thing I think is happening with the math teachers who are so used to just working with paper and pencil that they have adapted. And one of the probably the coolest things I've seen is a couple of our math teachers who are not tech savvy, and they had no intention of ever having a Google Classroom, started up Google Classroom. They have kids that are doing their math homework on paper pencil, taking a picture of it, submitting it through Google Classroom, and then the teachers will go in and put digital comments on that paper, and then have the student do corrections and then resubmit it. So I just to see those kind of things happen, I think is really cool as well.
So what I really like about what you just said as well is the part of the teachers allowing the correction. So making the comments, digitally, and then the students making corrections. How awesome is that? I feel like that's a huge missing piece sometimes that we get when we're in the classroom, because we don't have time, for that, or, whatever the situation may be, is definitely a missing piece. So I love that. So far, Tammy and John both are basically sharing teachers pushing themselves, to utilize the technology that has been available and that is there, using that feedback, becoming much more important, and the web conferencing, which is something I'm going to want to hit on a little bit later as well. So thank you, John. Kristen, how about you?
Our experience has been similar to John and Tammy's, where our teachers are have always been using the technology, but maybe not as heavily, especially in the elementary building, as they had in the high school building, because I was that K-12 experience. So it's been exciting to see some of the teachers. I host a 1 o'clock like anybody welcome session every day, and teachers will hop on and they'll share what they're doing and kind of talk to each other, ask for help, kind of get tips and tricks. But I think most of the teachers have been saying, I really didn't know. I didn't know how helpful Google Classroom could be, or we're a Seesaw school and we just started the Seesaw for Schools this past week, and I didn't really get why people were so excited about Seesaw, and now I get it. So some of those pieces that I hope do transcend over have been just exciting, like John and Tammy. But the thing I'm really excited about is that teachers have been collaborating in different ways with each other. So where I felt like it was really isolated to grade levels before, we have really been able to open up the door to teachers collaborating throughout the day with different grade levels, with specialists that maybe they haven't connected with before, and really sharing ideas of what's working and also what's not. We're really focused on giving feedback. That's been our plea, is don't worry about a final grade, just continue to give that feedback, and really sharing ideas of how they're giving that feedback, whether it's through a Google Meet or whether it's through a Google Doc or through Forms or through Seesaw. And so that's been really exciting for me. I think that's the thing I would probably say is a win, which I don't know if there's any wins in this time, but the win has been that vertical collaboration that I've really seen teachers doing and sharing resources that I think because they're so busy with their day, they just don't get the time to do that. So here we are, now we're really in each other's classrooms, just like we wanted to be, but we're just doing it virtually. So that's been really exciting. And the ideas that they're sharing of how they're giving assignments to students, whether most of our teachers are using the Google Slides model where it's a slide per topic, and they're releasing those every day. It's kind of taken off like wildfire through our building. So I think it's been really neat to see how they've been sharing with one another.
That's great, Kristen. I might want to hear a little bit more about that after Amy talks. So thank you so much for sharing. That's great. Again, win-win, right? You know, how can we go wrong with teachers learning and collaborating, which is something that they've always wanted. So yeah, that's great to hear that that's occurring. Amy.
I have to quote John Sanfilippo for a second, because he's somebody who has said, you know, we have great teachers and we really, really do, but now we're only making our teachers who are great, greater. And that is so, so true, because when we think about what we always want, which is the gift of time, I don't have time to learn Seesaw. I don't have time to learn Google Classroom. Now they have the time and they have the meaning behind it. And I saw a quote that said, someone said, I want to wear a shirt that says, you wish you would have paid closer attention in my PD session now, ? Because it's so true how often we've been trying to give PD to our staff when in our coaching roles, and people have been like, I just don't have the time to do that right now, or I don't have the focus to do that. And now we have the focus. So we're making great teachers. And I really think, you know, it's celebrating our teachers for willing to take the chance to explore these new tools versus saying, I'm just not going to do it. No, you have to do it now. And the other thing I want to really celebrate is the district leadership teams who are putting systems in places that I feel like in our district where I'm at, we really are doing some great things, but I have to give credit back to our leadership team who had been focused on different systems prior to all this happening, being a one-to-one district, looking at our finances to make sure that we had the money to invest. We've been a Seesaw school district for 4 years. You know, we've been a one-to-one school district for 13 years. And that comes back to leadership really having their pulse and their eye on the vision of our future. And so we've found great success through that. And in terms of like our coaching staff, we've had a strong support staff in place for many years. So it's not like we're all scrambling going, okay, where are we going to get the support for these teachers? So having virtual office hours where people can kind of just pop in and there's 4 people all day long for a very small school district. So it's been kind of exciting to see that. So it's good celebration between our teachers and our administration and our instructional staff support and our teaching and learning department. It's going very well.
Great, Amy, thank you for sharing. And for those of you that don't know Amy, that just sums her up so well. She's always looking at ways to celebrate others and promote the great things that are going on. So thank you, Amy, that's perfect. So Kristen, I want to go back a minute to what you mentioned about the slide per day. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. We with a Google district, and we've been using Google Classroom and Seesaw as a happy marriage for quite a while, because there's some value to both in terms of the way that you give materials to students. And so our students were really familiar with Google Slides and as a way to interact in our elementary building. They had already had practiced using it and they could access it. And so what our teachers did, instead of making a giant list of things for kids to do on a daily basis, they made one slide per, I'll call it subject area. So one for ELA, one for math, one for science, one for social studies, one for specials. And on that slide, they might give direction to students to, go and read a book on EPIC or post something in Seesaw. But the format for parents and for students is very, very user-friendly, and it's consistent. So when our parents log in on a daily basis, it's most of the same tools that we've been using all along. So it's things that kids are pretty familiar with, and it's just a set of directions. Sometimes it's the teacher, they used Screencastify and recorded themselves and recorded something on there, like a math problem or a little reading that they wanted the kids to respond to. But overall, they've been using it to organize their materials in a very user-friendly for both parents and students way. As a parent, I take my second grade teachers at my own school stuff and give it to my second grader who's not in our district, because I'm like, this is perfect, and I just keep giving it to him. Because the kids can interact with it on their own. It's an opportunity for kids to work independently without a lot of parent intervention, and even our first grade students are having success with it.
That's very interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I like, especially at the elementary level as well, where obviously they aren't as independent of learners, as older students. So that consistency and familiarity that they already have with Google Slides is a great idea. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Let's see, Tammy, you mentioned, I believe sorry, was it you or John that mentioned the backpacks? Yes. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because I do think it relates to what I actually did want to ask John as well in regards to internet access. And I'm sure all four of you that are, on today have stories of students that don't have internet access. So I do want to touch on that, but I would love to hear about what you're doing with the backpack.
So we have their ELT meetings, which is a representative from every grade level, and your administration, and then I'm in on those meetings as well. And it was actually our superintendent's idea, since the K through 2 administrator did not want them one-to-one. She found these backpacks online, and there's like books, they're social emotional books about the quarantine that are actually in the backpacks, and there's different work as far as reading and math. And the main reason she brought up what the backpacks was because she didn't want teachers back in the buildings printing off material for her K through 2 kiddos. So these were just easy to order. And like I said, there's just a variety of material as far as math, social studies, reading that are incorporated in them. And then we came up with other ideas of different things to add into the backpacks. So kind of our administrative is going to put together a volunteer team to help put those together and hand them out one day outside of the buildings and stuff. So it's just something convenient for our K through 2. One thing that we were worried about is our our schools, a lot of them are free and reduced lunch. So they don't have access to their hands-on books. And so in these backpacks, we're providing them access to a lot of books and things that they normally wouldn't have.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of media specialists, librarians really starting to get involved as well and looking at ways to provide books to the students. So that's phenomenal. Tammy, do you happen to have a link to that resource of the backpacks that you would be able to put in the chat window?
I don't have it, but I can get it for you.
Okay, that would be great.
That sounds, and I'll share it through email.
Yep, perfect, awesome, and then we can share that out. Yeah, I love that idea because that I'm sure, you know, everyone on here has heard, you know, that I know you're looking at it, Tammy, from the perspective of, you know, the administrator didn't want the littles to have the devices, less screen time. But I also think that this is a huge opportunity to look at equity and what can you provide for the students that don't have the internet access within your district.
Yes, and that's something that the superintendent kept bringing up in our meeting. So I do know our teachers were, K-2 teachers were a little upset because they wanted to see their kiddos' faces. So we just kind of went to the IT department and we had them open up the meets for the parents, so outside of our domain. And so now they're able to actually do a meet a week, so they can actually see their kiddos and their faces and stuff too. So that was another step we had to take to help provide those teachers with that kind of security as well.
Mm-hmm. That is great, and that's probably something I'll hit on a little bit more later as well, because almost everyone has mentioned those connections that the teachers are making with the students and how that's being utilized. And I can say as a parent, that's something that I have wished, granted my son's in high school, but that still, he's missing the opportunity to see his friends that he has in class. And, you know, that still personal connection, even right here, you know, I haven't seen many of you since in February at the conference. And, you know, even for me as an adult, I love this opportunity to see you. Like it really makes a huge difference. So I'm glad that you were able to open up Google Meets for them to be able to have that opportunity. John, can you share with us a little bit about what your district has been doing in particular for meeting the needs of those students that don't have internet access? And I'm sure it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, it is. Actually, well, I would have liked to had some kind of survey go out early to find out who did and didn't have. We didn't do that. So we're working on the back end of that. And basically, if we have a kid who's not submitting anything, then we're asking the teacher to reach out, contact, find out what's going on, see if they're okay. And that's the biggest part of it, is not, hey, why aren't you doing anything? It's, are you okay? Is there anything we can do to help you out? And some of those we're finding out that it might be a family who can't afford the internet, but it also might be a family who lives in an area where they just don't have access. We do have some spots like that, the internet just doesn't come out there, and they try to use satellite or they try to use their phones, and it's just really spotty. So in those cases, we had a big discussion with the admin team, and we do have all the schools. They could go to the parking lot and they could use the Wi-Fi from the school parking lot. The public library, there's a couple access points that are open to the public. In our Clayville Historic Site has one, and then they just added one with the Village Fire Department. So there's places where people could go. My main concern, and I told the admin this, I don't want kids sitting in a parking lot doing homework. That's not cool. If we want them to go in and download something and then go back home and work on it, perfect. But I just can't justify having kids sitting around in a parking lot working on homework. And we also try to use that guideline that ISB set out. You know, you've got all the way from that maybe an hour to elementary kids max, all the way up to high school, 4.5 hours max. That's the max. And trying to explain to teachers that if you put out an assignment, that doesn't mean that assignment is all screen time. You need to have that assignment have a portion where maybe you have a lesson that's that's explained with a video, short video, about 5-10 minutes, and then they work off screen for a while, and then they come back and submit it. So trying to break it into chunks and trying to do that as well. And then worst case scenario for those students who just don't have any other option, they can come pick up paper packets and take care of it that way, or admin will deliver them to their door. That was the other option.
That's great. Yeah, I love the collaboration within the community, you know, as well. So I think that that's huge. And again, these are stories that we hear, you know, we've heard over the last few years, but definitely not something that I think has been, I don't want to say it hasn't been a priority, but just, again, finding that time, right? So how do we find the time to make those connections with the fire department to say, hey, if something should occur,
right,
could you open up your internet to the public, right?
And we were definitely also lucky. One of the local internet providers in Springfield side, Comcast, they opened up a deal for low-income families, $10 a month, which was nice. I talked to some of the other ones and they didn't have deals, but they pointed me to public hotspots. So they were all had some way they could help out. So that was kind of nice.
Right. That's great. John Clausen had popped in the chat window that he had talked with some parents and teachers who were happy to see building administrators hop on some Google Meets and Hangouts and Zoom sessions and talk to the students as well. They said that the kids, all grade levels, really enjoyed it. And it's funny that you say that, John, because I was thinking that the other day, you know, just even within my son's district, how awesome I'm sure it would be for him, you know, to see his counselor or, you know, see the superintendent or the principal. So it's great to hear that that is happening. Do any of you have stories of something like that, that something unique has happened that your building administrator, superintendent has done with your district in a similar way? Amy?
Sure. So we actually created a Google site 2-3 years ago, I guess it was 3 years ago, for each of our buildings. And on our Google site, you have to be in domain to access this Google site. And on that, we just made a new tab that says e-learning. And on our e-learning page, that's where we're housing all of our tutorials. That's where we're housing our schedule of who's having Google Meets at what point. That's where we house different resources where people have made certain, you know, documentations for how to act in a Google Meet. And we're housing all that there because we can be inundated with emails from parents, from administration, from colleagues. So we're trying to put our top priority items on this one site. And then that is a great thing too, to have that schedule for administration, as well as like specialists, like you were saying, for your son to have an opportunity for a, you know, a social worker or your speech and language person who might pop into your room to work with certain kids, but then being able to come into your Google Meet at 9 o'clock each week gives them another face besides just their teacher. So that transparency is there, which has really been great. And another thing too, I think is important with these like Google Meets is our district made it a requirement that everybody has to host 2 synchronous meetings a week because of the value that it is from the social emotional lens for these kids to be able to connect. And my daughter in her district is having that same experience. And that's like the highlight of her week. When she gets online with her classmates, she's just like giddy. And she's like, Mom, I need to reserve the spot where I usually sit. She calls it now her office, and she reserves it from me. So it's kind of funny because she's seeing what I'm doing and I'm modeling it for her. And then she's rising to those expectations too. So, and she's become a trainer in her own district because she'll say to me, Mom, can you please teach my teacher how to use that grid so you can see everybody's faces on Google Meet? Mom, can you show my teacher how to use Nod? Because I'm teaching it all day to my staff. So she now wants to teach it to her teachers so she can roll it out in her own district. It's kind of fun.
That is awesome. I love that. I can totally see that. I could totally see that.
Lucy's all about it.
But I think, you know, I do think, I mean, you make a great point, and I love that they're posting it and then people can join in, you know, as needed if the superintendent wants to hop in or the principal. Like, that transparency is huge. And I also like what you mentioned, Tammy, and we had talked about this last week with another group, actually we had a special teacher join us, and she, shared that she kind of feels like, clearly, her projects or assignments aren't what the priority should be for students. So how can she engage with them? And Tammy, if you want to share a little bit about what your art, music, PE teachers are doing, because I think that's a great way to integrate them, and have them be able to give support and engage with the students as well.
I know, like, our PE teacher jumped in on my son's meeting last week, and he basically just kind of said hi to the kids, told them how much he was missing them, and then he kind of talked about what are some of the things that you're doing outside that we might have been doing in PE, or what are some activities that you're doing to get yourself out or exercising. And so they just did a little discussion on some of the things that they're doing, even if it's just playing or swinging on their swing outside. He talked about, oh, well, that's so important. And so they're just hopping in. They're picking a couple meetings a week to hop in on and say hi to the different kids at different grade levels and stuff. So,
but how cool is that also, though, to have them think about, I'm even thinking about how you could integrate that with even art and music. Oh, what TV show were you watching? Oh, did you know that music came from, you know what I mean? Just that engagement, yeah, and that connecting to the real world.
And I think I know for sure our music teachers hopped in on a couple meetings too, and she's played like the piano for them and she was just talking about different notes. But I think the important thing is when they first get on, they're just talking about how much they miss them, and it's so nice to see their faces and things like that. So I know that meant a lot to my son at 5th grade level. So just to see those teachers.
Absolutely. Kristen, how about you?
I'm sorry. I think it's also important that they're not only just seeing their kids in their class and their teacher, but they're knowing that these special teachers, that they're doing okay too.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Because for some students, and I mean, I can say for mine, not, again, granted he's in high school, but those are his favorite classes, right? Like his choir class is his favorite class of the day. And so, yeah, that is very important for, those students as well that really do latch on to, the fine arts and or the athletes with PE and, the coaches. Great point. Kristen?
Yeah, so our teachers have been doing Google Meets, and because they're a little nervous, they invite me, and I love to get to see the kids, and the kids are always excited when an extra teacher is on, and it's kind of like something new. But my second grader, my own school district hasn't started that yet. So my second grader will come and hop on the Google Meet with my school district kids, because he just is really missing kids. He's missing seeing kids his own age, and I have 2 high schoolers, and they're not like a second grader. And so they, just the fact that 1st through 5th grade, I had to convince teachers the first 10 minutes just needs to be them talking to each other. Like, let them talk to each other. Don't make it about business. Let them see each other's faces and be goofy and, oh my gosh, you have a dog like mine, or whatever it is. But just the fact that they needed to see each other's faces and say those things to each other was way more important than what the teacher needed to say. And so that's what I've been trying to convince mine. My high schooler, he's missing track right now, and it's really, like you said, for your child with choir, it's really hard for him. So his coach, they've been doing Google Meets every week, and the coach is trying to support them, and it really does inspire him. I see his motivation start to wane, and the coach has a Google Meet, and all of a sudden he's back out again. So I think we can't forget the face-to-face and just the things that our teachers provide in those connections to our students, whether it's an administrator, a teacher, a specialist teacher. The students really rely on having their cheerleaders talk to them.
Absolutely. Well said. I like that. Yes, thinking about them as cheerleaders. Amy, go ahead.
I was just going to ask too for Kristen, in terms of like your district not being there yet, is it because they don't have the support? They're not aware of it? Like, because that was happening in my own hometown. And I actually reached out to Amber at one point. I was like, Amber, how do we get Wi-Fi? Because where I live, which is only 10 minutes up the road from where I work, 2 totally different towns, with the financial capability. And so we were able to, I happened to be on the foundation here in town, and we granted the money to the school district on behalf of the parent organization to get the Wi-Fi and to get the home network available to these families. And then when it comes to like the coaching part, I led some PD for Seesaw in my own hometown because they were short-staffed. So just thinking about if you can kind of poke that a little bit in your own hometown to help grow that, they may just not have the resources. So if it's looking to your parent organization to get the finances, or looking for the PD from you to host a Google Meet, to kind of get that up and running, because you see the value with it, you know, with your son, and reaching out to like their curriculum department or teaching and learning department and helping to grow that.
Yeah, it has been. I appreciate that you said that, Amy, because it's been hard to work and live into very different approaches. My own school district is one-to-one, but it's brand new this year, where I've been living it for 5 years in the school district that I work in. And I think that they're not sure. And it's, you know, I know their hearts are in the right place. And I have to be honest, I'm a little hesitant to reach out because I don't want to seem like that bossy parent who's like, hey, I know all the things. But I kind of want to say, like, I can help. I promise I won't try to be super bossy, but I kind of know a couple things, just like 2 or 3, and I could help support this. But I don't want to be that parent either that's like, oh God, here's another email from Stern, you know. So it's been a balance for me. I do reach out to my kids' teachers and say, hey, you know, you can flip this in Seesaw and it'll work really well for the kids. But I appreciate that you said you reached out to the admin, because maybe that needs to be my next step, because my kids are missing out on some of those great things.
Yeah. And I really would encourage you to, and trust me, I know that feeling of like, because I'm kind of quiet with the district that I live in, knowing
Right.
I roll that hat. But yet on the other hand, when I did reach out, they were like, yes, please, 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 please. So, and I was like, whoa, like it kind of surprised me at, you know, how open and willing they were, and they wanted to do it the very next day. And I was like, well, let's do it, you know, like 2 days, let your teachers get into Seesaw first and then let me come on board. So, but definitely do extend that hand, because right now I think people are looking for that hand to grab.
I appreciate that. And I think you're right. I will put that on my agenda for things to do today. I'll word it. Amy said that.
Yeah, there you go.
I appreciate it.
That's wise. Yes, Kristen, to put it that way. That's awesome. Well, before I have so much more, oh my gosh, I could like spend another hour with you all. But before I kind of move on to the next question, I do want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of those that are on. So feel free to ask a question in the chat if you have one, and we will specifically ask that question to the group that is on today. So again, please feel free to put a question in the chat window if you have something very specific that you would like input on. One thing that I did want also to ask, I've heard such a variety of different ways of what the weeks are set up to look like for different districts. And one reason I bring this up as well, unfortunately, is that a district near to where I live had set their week up for Monday and Fridays to be kind of collaboration, like teacher collaboration on Mondays, you know, then time with students Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday was follow-ups with students and office hours. And sadly enough, the school board is now pushing back on that, and they want the teachers to go to 5 full days of all of that time with the students. So I'm just curious what your setups are of what does your week look like? Tammy, let's start with you.
We're kind of like that school district that you mentioned. Monday, our administration has set up for teachers to have collaboration time. So they're required to have grade level meetings, and they do any like ELT meetings or district leadership team meetings. So that's all on Monday. And again, our admin has put out spreadsheets, and she had each grade level sign up for different times because they like to have admin in each of those meetings and to be there to help answer any questions or to help guide them. And so teachers kind of get together and kind of get an idea of what they want their students to be doing for the rest of the week. And then they post it on Tuesday in Google Classroom. They have their Google Meets on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And then Friday is each administration has set up different faculty meetings, and that's kind of where they fill in the faculty on next week's expectations or anything that's changed as far as what the state's expecting or even what our district is expecting and stuff. So that's kind of how Taylorville has set up our week for our staff.
Great, thank you. John, how about yours?
Elementary school is kind of doing their regular routine, so it didn't really affect their schedule much. The middle school and high school, we're on a block schedule, so we basically told the teachers early on, follow your block schedule, follow your A days and B days for your students to work. The middle school principal did a really cool idea. She set up a Google Doc with a grid on it, and it has where teachers can fill in everything that they're going to do for the week. And it also has the times that they're going to do their web conferencing with students are filled in on that grid. And then she'll push that out to the parents per grade level. So they have an idea. This is the week. This is what's going to happen. Here's what the expectations are. High school is following their daily schedule just from home. So obviously, if they're not going to do a web conferencing meeting with the kids, do anything synchronous, they still follow their daily asynchronous schedule and work on it that way. And it's been working well. They have faculty meetings that they work through there that are off hours of the school day. So it still works out for all the staff to attend, and it's not going to interfere with the kids and everything like that. But there's no real tight structure to the day. It's fit it in when you can fit it in. We're expecting you to just do the best you can.
Because I think what we have to keep in mind, right, is we all have children at home as well of various age levels that we're also trying to, manage also. So Kristen, how about you?
Our expectation from the beginning, we didn't take advantage of the Act of God days. So we had one day for teachers to plan, and then we moved right into e-learning now, remote learning. And the expectation has remained the same. By 9 o'clock every morning, teachers will reach out to families either via Google Classroom, an email, or Seesaw, and that we just ask that it be consistent. However you're reaching out, continue to reach out that way with the day's plan. And that's been really effective for most of our students and families because they know what to expect. Here's what I should be doing today. We got feedback from some parents that they're like, well, just give me the whole week. And other people were like, no. One day, I've got 4 kids at home. I just want one day of what they need to do. Like John, our high school is on the block. So our students have 3, maybe 4 classes that they're working on at a time. So that daily expectation of the work being posted for 3, maybe 4 of their classes has been working out really well. But our middle school did switch. So they went to an A-B schedule. So before they were just in a traditional 9, I think they had 8 or 9 periods, but now they do A-B. So half the classes meet on A day and half the classes meet on B day, and in order to lessen the overwhelmed feeling for the students. So the teachers only post every other day. But our elementary folks are sending some kind of work on a daily basis at this point. Our specials teachers send once a week. They make a kind of a giant bingo board. That's how they've been doing it. I think that's been pretty popular. And then they reach out and all the teachers send it that way. We've tried to minimize the communication because the communication was coming from so many places at the beginning. They were getting emails from the district. They were getting emails from the principal, emails from specials, emails from case managers, email. And the parents were like, hold up, we cannot manage all these emails for all the kids. So now we're trying to filter almost all the communication through that classroom teacher, the one time a day, to make it manageable for families. Because I have 3 kids of mine at home, and for me to get everything organized for them, I get it, So one time, once per day through the classroom teacher.
Yeah, that's great advice. Amy, how's your week structured?
Just to answer John's question, we did change our timing a little bit so that K-8 across the board has a master schedule. So 8:30 to 3 o'clock is our student workday. K-8, where that's not usually the case. We have our elementary school starting at 7:50. We have our middle school starting at 8:35. So that did change a little bit. We are Monday through Thursday workday, and then Friday is a catch-up day. So, and then we're cashing in on our 5 planning days. We've already cashed in on 1, which was last Monday. So we went 2 weeks, and then we'll cash in our second remote learning plan and plan for another 2 weeks and move off of that schedule. And then in our planning time, we're focusing on reading, writing, and math as our cores. So that's where homeroom teachers are working with specialists to plan that with the ISB time requirements. And then for our specialists, they have a choice board. And if the kids finish their work ahead of time, they can just go into choice board time. So, and it's just a Google slide with each person has their own slide that they can go in and put links on.
So the students go in and put the links on the Google slide? Oh, no, the specialist.
Yeah, the specialist would
Okay.
put that on there depending on what it is that they would have as like the choice for that week. So it's just one, our teacher's giving one thing. But we kind of recalibrated because that first, we jumped right in on, there was a Thursday where our CTO came in and said, what would it be like if we sent home devices today? And we weren't planning on sending them home until Friday. And I was like, let's go for it. We're ready. And he was like, are you serious? I'm like, yep, everybody's got a charger. Everybody's got their Clever badges. We're ready to roll. And he was like, great. So we sent him home on that Thursday. And then that Friday, we used an Institute Day, which was supposed to be April 15th. We bumped it up to March 15th. And we used that to kind of plan out our plan of what it would look like with our structure. But what we found those first 2 weeks was it was too much work. And we had kids doing art, math, reading, writing, world language, gym every day. And we were like, yeah, no, we need to come back to balance. So how we were able to do that was with ISB putting in those guidelines and saying, now we've gone too fast, too far. Let's pull back a little bit.
Yeah, that's 2 things. One, I think that happened numerous districts. I think probably everybody's kind of shaking their heads of, yep, sounds familiar. And I will give kudos to ISB for the document that they put out. You can tell that a lot of thought and collaboration went into that document. So that was definitely something that I appreciated as an educator in Illinois, but also as a parent, quite honestly. So yeah, I'm glad to hear you referencing that as well. So,
and even the stakeholders that they had in part of building that. I mean, you had everything from superintendents to parents to kids to, bilingual, everything, EL, everything was in there. One of the things though that I have to ask a question about is the vocabulary. How many districts are still stuck on the word e-learning versus those that have moved over to remote learning? Because ISB is saying it really truly is, and it should be called remote learning, because e-learning is short-term, remote learning is long-term. So I've brought that up to our leadership team just to say, we need to consider that, but they're afraid that the confusion will come. Like, well, wait, hold on. What do you mean? What, is it just the vocabulary? It is, but yet I think it's still making it clear in districts. Has anyone changed their vocabulary in their districts?
Everybody. Awesome. So Kristen, so you are all referring to it as remote learning?
Yeah, we're calling it remote learning. So the initial link on the parent page, like as people get into our district, still says e-learning. Again, like you said, Amy, not to confuse people, but when you get to the actual page itself, it says remote learning and explains the difference a little bit so that parents have that clarity about why that terminology was switched and kind of how the expectations are a little different. To go back to looking at, where John and Tammy are, we don't have all kids who have access, so we're making sure that we're able to provide resources and provide learning for them, whether or not they have, they're doing it on their computer. So I think that language can be really helpful for parents who don't have access or who aren't always able to access the resources that are out there. We have some parents who are accessing everything through their phone. I'm sure, as everybody is.
Yep, absolutely. So John and Tammy, you guys were nodding as well. You have also changed your vocabulary or terminology for this time?
Yeah, it was kind of nice. The superintendent actually sent out in his parent letter to let everybody know that we were switching from e-learning to remote learning, and he outlined the expectations. So he defined the vocabulary for them so they could tell this is a change.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's great. Tammy?
Yeah, our superintendent right away said we are not equipped to provide e-learning. And so she kind of talked to us a little bit about what e-learning was. And that's when she said, this is remote learning. And so, yeah, she said it straight from the very beginning. So
That's great. Amy, thank you for bringing that up. I think that's something that I can take back to my team today and make sure that even my team is referencing it appropriately, based on this discussion as well. I think that is a very important difference that we need to get the word out about. So thank you so much for bringing that up. So we're at about the last 5 minutes here. And what I would like to just do a quick whip around is ask each of you if you could give one piece of advice for any educators right now from what you've learned to where we're going to be in 3 more weeks. We could have the same conversation. It could be a very different conversation. But what piece of advice would you give? And maybe that's an app or a resource, or whatever, but just one little piece of advice that you would share out. Kristen, you're nodding, so let's go with you first.
Okay. I think my piece of advice to my teachers has been to keep it simple and focus on that opportunity to provide feedback. Because some of my teachers wanted to structure it so very much like their classroom is structured, and it became difficult for them to keep up with giving quality feedback. So we've really focused on keeping it smaller and getting to connect with the students on that feedback loop a little bit more individually, so students can really expand on their thinking and really not worry about the quantity of work, which I think was initially like, oh my gosh, we have to give them the things to do, and now really smaller about quality and focusing on that feedback. And my biggest piece of advice is reach out to the people in your district who are there to help. So the Amy's, the instructional coaches, the tech coaches, whoever it is, they want to help and they are here to help you brainstorm those ideas. You don't have to do this by yourself. So keeping it small, keeping it feedback focused, and really reaching out to the support structures. Those would be my piece of advice.
Those are awesome, Kristen. Thank you so much. John, how about you?
Kristen, that was awesome. That was everything I was thinking. But in addition to that, I think the other cool thing we've been pushing is make it fun. Our middle school teacher, Heather Greer, or principal rather, Heather Greer, found a way to do a virtual Spirit Week. And that was so cool because parents were involved. They were submitting pictures of their kids in their pajamas for pajama day, doing their lessons, doing a creative day. They were building Lego walls or whatever. And just having a way to have fun, because we have fun in the classroom anyway. We have to find a way to push that out. So this isn't a chore. It shouldn't be a chore for teachers. It shouldn't be a chore for parents or students. It should be that fun learning experience anyway. So I think that's probably my second point, would find a way to work the fun aspect into it.
So true. And because right now I feel like that it's always important, but right now, just as a social adult, I feel like I'm lacking my fun right now, to be able to go and socialize. So such a great point, John. Thank you for bringing that up. Tammy?
One of the things that I'm trying to get my teachers to understand is they want to get on the Google Meets and they want it to look like a regular school day, just teaching the whole time, kids just sitting there listening. And so I just keep trying to tell them, this should not look like your regular school day. This is not your regular teaching class. You've got to get out of that zone. And so I've just been trying to come up with some fun things for them to do on the Google Meets, scavenger hunts, would you rather game kind of thing. I had one teacher, she did, the kids had to make a kite. So then the next time they met, they got to post pictures of them outside flying their kite out of materials they had at home. So I'm just trying to come up with, like John said, fun things like that. for them to try to get them out of that teaching zone, because their lessons are already on a Google slide. When you do the Google Meet, it's more for the social emotional, and I'm trying to get them out of that, area of it's got to be teaching and them listening kind of thing.
Absolutely. That SEL piece is so important. And Tammy, I don't know if it helps or not, but on our website, our terminology is home learning. So it's our home learning piece of our website. Lindsay and the team actually designed an SEL framework that has a lot of different activities already on it. So feel free to take a look at that, because those activities are pretty much designed already. I know another district, Bunker Hill, Todd Dugan at Bunker Hill, his teachers are using that as well. So yeah, so feel free to take a look at that and grab it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Amy, how about you?
I would say just get connected. The Google Meets and being connected with your colleagues is key. And if it's starting off with just a quick little, like we said, what we should be modeling for our kids is what we should be modeling for our colleagues. Check in, see how people are doing, have fun little things to start it off, give some laughter to each other, and just stay connected virtually is key.
Great point. We talk so much, even within our organization about how we want to model as professional development people what the classroom should look like. And aha moment, great point, Amy. Let's figure out how to integrate that fun into our time collaborating with one another as well, just like what we want the teachers doing with the students. Great reminder. So thank you. This day might look a little different tomorrow with the group, because I might integrate a scavenger hunt or something fun like that, Tammy. So thank you so very, very much. So Whitney put in the chat window the link to home learning. So take a look at that. And again, it's, I believe, on the left-hand side towards the bottom, it's the SEL framework. We also have created just different activities in there for elementary, middle, and high school. On Mondays, it is an SEL activity. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's an activity based on the 4 C's as well. So we're putting that out. So please take a look at that. Feel free to share it out. Use it however you would like. We continue to try to find creative ways to support the educators. And if there is any other way that we can support, please let us know as well. 2 weeks ago, we had a special education teacher join our session, and she was talking about the lack of resources that she felt she had as a special education teacher. So I connected with eLuma Therapy, who is actually an online service that offers special education online. That's what they do. And we did a series of 4 webinars on Friday. So those are going to get posted to our site as well. And then today we actually have another special ed session with Don Johnston Group. So again, feel free to share those resources. And a huge thank you to all of you for joining us today. It has been absolutely incredible. I have pages of notes, so thank you very much. I probably am going to tweet out some of what you all shared too, and I'll tag you in the awesome advice that each of you gave. So thank you. And the last thing that I want to mention is Whitney also put the link in there for the professional development hours. So please make sure that you fill that out, our IDEA coaches as well, because you also provided professional development to us and to each other. So thank you so much. I appreciate it, and have a wonderful week. And if you need anything, let us know.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so
All
much.
right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good seeing everybody.
You too. Take care.